With a deep breath, she smoothed her blazer and affixed her signature to the acquisition documents for her fifth childcare center. The broker extended a hand, offering congratulations and noting how Bright Art Learning Centers consistently impressed. As she accepted the handshake, a memory surfaced. Her mother's words from 6 years ago at her 26th birthday dinner. "You're just a nanny, Sarah, a glorified babysitter." At the time, the comment had stung deeply. Now, at 32, those words acted as a fuel, driving her forward. Her phone buzzed, displaying an email notification. It was another message from her mother, inquiring about the receptionist position at their flagship location. The irony was not lost on her. The woman who had belittled her career choice was now seeking employment within the multi-million-dollar childcare enterprise she had built. She thanked the broker and stepped outside into the bright spring sunshine, reflecting on her childhood. Her bedroom walls had been adorned with pictures of teachers, not celebrities. While other children envisioned futures as astronauts or doctors, she had always felt a calling to work with young children, to influence developing minds during their most crucial years. Of course, her parents, a surgeon father and lawyer mother, had envisioned a different trajectory for their daughter than simply watching kids all day. Yet, life often completed a full circle. The very passion others might ridicule could become one's greatest strength, and the path discouraged could lead to the most profound success. Her initial motivation wasn't about proving her mother wrong or amassing wealth. It was simply about following her heart and refusing to allow anyone, even family, to define her worth based on their limited perception of her work. That was the unique aspect of pursuing one's true calling. It might not command immediate respect from everyone, but persistent dedication created ripples that ultimately became undeniable, even to those who had once scoffed at her aspirations. Her earliest recollections were of meticulously arranging stuffed animals into rows, standing before them with a small chalkboard gifted by her grandmother Eleanor for her 5th birthday. While other children played house, she played school, diligently planning lessons and reading stories to her plush audience. By the age of 12, she had become the most sought-after babysitter in their affluent Boston neighborhood, with parents booking her weeks in advance. She possessed an innate connection with children that adults also recognized. Everyone, it seemed, except her own parents. Her mother, Caroline, displayed her Harvard Law diploma and photographs with senators and judges in her law office. Her father, Thomas, performed intricate surgical procedures, literally holding human hearts in his hands daily. Success within the Mitchell family carried a specific definition: prestigious academic credentials, 6-figure incomes, and careers that garnered admiration at social gatherings. She vividly remembered her 5th-grade career day. She had devoted hours to creating a vibrant poster detailing her dream of becoming an early childhood educator, adorned with magazine cutouts of teachers interacting with children. When her turn came, she proudly articulated her aspiration to open a school one day. While other parents offered encouraging nods, she observed her mother's tight smile and a subtle shake of her head. In the car journey home, her mother suggested she set her sights higher. "Teaching is respectable, Sarah," she had said, "but with your intelligence, you could become a pediatrician instead. Still working with children, but making a real difference." That remark was the first subtle wound. The implication that nurturing children's developmental stages wasn't considered a real difference. Throughout her middle and high school years, brochures for pre-medical programs inexplicably appeared on her desk. Her father casually mentioned family connections at top medical schools during dinner conversations. Her mother arranged informal coffee meetings with the daughters of her colleagues who were enrolled in law school. The underlying message was consistently clear. Her passion was endearing, but lacked the seriousness of a legitimate career path. Only her grandmother Eleanor seemed to grasp her vision. During weekend visits to her cozy Cambridge apartment, She would listen intently to her ideas about innovative teaching methodologies. Not everyone is meant to follow conventional paths, Sarah, Eleanor would remark, her eyes twinkling behind her glasses. Some people need to forge new ones. As high school graduation neared and college acceptance decisions loomed, the familial tension escalated. During a celebratory dinner at her father's preferred steakhouse, they inquired about her final college choice. Boston University, she announced. I've accepted their scholarship for early childhood education. The ensuing silence was profound. Her mother placed her wine glass down with excessive force, splashing Cabernet onto the pristine white tablecloth. We assumed you would select Northwestern's pre-law program, she stated, her voice taut, or at least their business school. Her father's disappointment was quieter, but equally palpable. We will support whatever you choose, he finally said, though his tone conveyed the opposite. They would finance her education, but their approval, which she yearned for most, remained conspicuously absent. Boston University's early childhood education program felt like finally finding her place. Surrounded by individuals who celebrated her passion rather than proposing alternatives, she flourished. She excelled in courses covering developmental psychology, curriculum design, and educational theory. Her professors commended her innovative project proposals and insightful contributions to class discussions. During her sophomore year, she developed close friendships with Jessica Kim, whose Korean immigrant parents held similar expectations about prestigious careers, and Marcus Reed, a former finance major who had switched to education after volunteering at an after-school program. They spent countless evenings in the campus coffee shop, passionately debating how they would revolutionize childcare and early education given the opportunity. When the education department hosted its annual honors reception during her junior year, she called her parents 3 weeks in advance. I'm receiving the department's Innovative Curriculum Design Award, she explained, attempting to suppress her excitement. The ceremony is on the 15th at 7. I would love for you to be there. Her mother's sigh was clearly audible through the phone. That's the night of your father's hospital fundraiser. You know we can't miss that. Swallowing her disappointment, she asked, could you come for just a portion of it? My presentation is scheduled for 8. Sarah, be reasonable. This is a critical event for your father's career. That evening, she accepted her award to enthusiastic applause from professors and peers, while the chairs she had reserved in the front row remained noticeably empty. Jessica's parents beamed proudly from the audience, having driven 3 hours to attend, their presence starkly highlighting her own parents' absence. The summer preceding her senior year, she secured an internship at Glenwood Academy, one of Boston's most esteemed preschools. The director, Mrs. Bennett, took a particular interest in her work. You possess an intuitive understanding of children's needs, she observed, noting how she had diffused a potential conflict by improvising a sharing system for a coveted toy. That quality cannot be taught.
During this internship, Professor Diana Williams, a leading researcher in early childhood development, became her mentor and advocate.
She recognized something unique in her approach. You are synthesizing educational rigor with emotional intelligence training in a way I find fascinating, she told her during their weekly coffee meetings. Your methods warrant broader implementation. Under Professor Williams' guidance, she began formulating the core principles that would later define her signature childcare philosophy, the whole child, whole future approach, designed to distinguish her learning centers from conventional daycare and preschool models. By graduation, she had refined her vision, created sample curricula, and compiled a portfolio showcasing her methodology. Her parents attended the commencement ceremony, of course. What would others think if they didn't? Her mother offered a stiff embrace. Congratulations. I suppose you can always pursue an MBA later, when you realize the limitations of this field. Her father nodded in agreement. The business world would undoubtedly welcome someone with your capabilities. She managed a smile through clenched teeth. the diploma in her hand, suddenly feeling weighty. That night, alone in her apartment, she questioned her path for the first time. Was she being stubborn? Was she perceiving potential in a field that truly had the restrictions her parents described? But upon reviewing the portfolio she had created, observing the deliberate intention behind each activity, the developmental milestones addressed, the opportunities for emotional growth embedded within seemingly simple play, she reaffirmed her commitment. Her vision wasn't merely valid, it was essential. Children deserved more than simple supervision or rote academic instruction. They deserved environments that fostered their holistic development. She was resolute in her determination to create those environments, with or without her family's endorsement. Glenwood Academy offered her a lead teacher position immediately after graduation, a rare opportunity that validated her choice despite her family's persistent skepticism. She dedicated herself to cultivating a classroom environment that embodied her educational philosophy. Her classroom became recognized for its innovative learning stations, calm atmosphere, and the notable progress her 3-year-olds demonstrated in both academic readiness and emotional regulation. Parents specifically requested her class, and the waiting list expanded. The director began bringing visitors to observe her teaching methods. 6 months into her position, she was invited to the monthly curriculum development meetings, typically reserved for senior staff. She was building a professional reputation that instilled pride, even as her personal life remained strained by family tension. The disparity became painfully evident during a family dinner celebrating her father's hospital department chairmanship. Relatives filled the dining table, congratulating him on his achievement. When the conversation eventually turned to her Aunt Patricia politely inquired about her work. Before she could respond, her mother interjected, "Sarah's still at that preschool, playing with finger paints and managing tantrums." She chuckled lightly, as though sharing an endearing anecdote. $22 an hour for a college graduate, but she insists it's her calling. The table grew uncomfortable as she struggled to maintain her composure. "Actually," she said evenly, "I've been asked to assist in redesigning the curriculum for all 6 classrooms, based on the outcomes from my class this year." Her mother took a sip of wine. Imagine redesigning hospital protocols after 6 months as a nurse. Some fields necessitate actual expertise, dear. She excused herself shortly after, retreating to her childhood bathroom as tears threatened to spill. These interactions recurred during holidays and family gatherings. Her cousin's law school acceptances and medical residencies were celebrated with champagne toasts, while her promotion to lead curriculum coordinator was acknowledged with polite nods and quick changes of subject. The sole bright spot during this period was her work with Jake, a 4-year-old who had been dismissed from 2 previous preschools due to behavioral issues. His parents, both accomplished scientists, were desperate when they enrolled him at Glenwood as a final recourse. Jake's initial weeks in her classroom were challenging. He struggled with transitions, experienced frequent emotional outbursts, and had difficulty connecting with peers. Rather than labeling him a problem child, she recognized a highly intelligent boy whose sensory processing differences were not being accommodated. She adjusted her classroom schedule to provide Jake with advance notice of transitions, established a quiet corner for self-regulation when he felt overwhelmed, and developed social scripts to help him navigate peer interactions. Within 2 months, Jake was flourishing. His parents' gratitude was profound. "You've changed our entire family dynamic," his mother told her, tears in her eyes. "For the first time, someone saw our son, instead of just his behaviors." Jake's father, a renowned physicist, even spoke to the school board about her work. This external validation sustained her when family approval remained elusive. Although she maintained regular contact with her parents, she began to emotionally distance herself for self-preservation. Their conversations grew increasingly superficial. She shared fewer details about her professional life, weary of having her achievements minimized. Yet, a part of her still longed for their approval. The inner child who had once proudly displayed her teacher posters, hoping for encouragement. Her 26th birthday marked an unexpected turning point. Her mother insisted on hosting dinner at Calav, an upscale Italian restaurant where she frequently entertained clients. Nonsense, she'd said, when she suggested somewhere more casual. 26 is significant. We should celebrate properly. Dressed in a new navy blue dress she had purchased for the occasion, she arrived feeling cautiously optimistic, hopeful that this dinner might signify a new chapter in their relationship, one where her parents might finally acknowledge her as an adult whose choices deserved respect. The warm atmosphere, flowing wine, and pleasant conversation through appetizers bolstered her hope. When her father inquired about her work, she seized the opportunity. Actually, I have exciting news, she said, unable to suppress her smile. Mrs. Bennett is retiring next year, and the board has asked me to consider stepping into the director position. I would be the youngest director in Glenwood's 40-year history. She anticipated congratulations, perhaps even a flicker of pride. Instead, her mother put down her fork and regarded her with a mixture of pity and exasperation. Oh, Sarah, is that truly what you want? You're just a nanny, a glorified babysitter. When are you going to utilize your potential for something meaningful? The restaurant noise receded to a distant hum as blood rushed to her face. Her father silently studied his wineglass, his silence as condemning as her mother's words. You don't understand what I do, she managed, her voice barely steady. I am shaping developing minds during their most formative years. The work is intellectually demanding and emotionally complex. Her mother reached across the table to patronizingly pat her hand. Of course, it seems that way to you, dear. But from the outside, it looks like playing with blocks and wiping noses. Your father and I simply desire more for you than that. Something within her fractured. Years of seeking validation, of explaining her passion, of hoping they would eventually understand. It all collapsed under the weight of those dismissive words. She stood abruptly, nearly overturning her water glass. Thank you for dinner, she said, her voice unfamiliar. I need to leave. She ignored their protests, bypassed the concerned waiter, and walked directly outside into the rain, not waiting for the valet to retrieve her car. She walked 6 blocks in heels and pouring rain before she could breathe normally again. Soaked and shivering, she finally called an Uber. That night, she called the one person who had consistently recognized her value. Grandma, did I make a mistake? She asked as soon as Eleanor answered. Should I have become a doctor or lawyer like they wanted? Her grandmother's response was immediate and resolute. Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell, you listen to me. Not everyone is meant to perform surgery or argue court cases. Some people are called to nurture the next generation. What could possibly be more important than that? They talked for hours about family expectations, the societal undervaluation of caring professions, and the courage required to forge one's own path. Your parents achieved conventional success, Eleanor said wisely. Perhaps you are meant to redefine what success looks like. After their conversation, sleep eluded her. She sat at her small kitchen table until dawn, researching childcare industry statistics, market trends, and business models. What she discovered galvanized her. A significant need for high-quality childcare, parents yearning for programs that offered more than basic supervision, and a field ripe for innovation. Working within existing schools, she would always be constrained by established parameters. Creating something new, however, presented boundless possibilities. As the sun rose over Boston, she made 2 firm decisions. She would cease seeking her parents' approval for her life choices, and she would build something so intrinsically valuable that its worth would be undeniable, even to them. That morning, she opened a new document on her laptop and typed Bright Art Learning Center's business plan draft. Her hands trembled slightly, but her vision had never been clearer. While maintaining her position at Glenwood, she enrolled in evening business courses at Boston University's Extension program. She knew her educational philosophy was sound. Now she needed to understand how to construct a sustainable business around it. Financial management, marketing, legal considerations for small businesses, she absorbed it all with the same intensity she had once applied to learning developmental psychology. Her small apartment transformed into command central for her dream. Vision boards covered the walls, business books stacked high on her coffee table, and spreadsheets tracking potential costs and revenue projections filled her computer screen. She refined her whole child, whole future approach into a marketable framework that would distinguish Bright Art from conventional childcare centers. While most daycares focus primarily on safety and basic play, and preschools increasingly emphasized academic readiness at the expense of social emotional development, her model would intentionally integrate both. Every activity, from morning circle time to outdoor play, would be designed to simultaneously advance multiple developmental domains. To transform this vision into reality, she needed capital, significantly more than she could save from her teacher's salary. She lived frugally, relocating to a smaller apartment in a less desirable neighborhood and taking on weekend consultation work with families facing behavioral challenges. She established a separate savings account labeled Bright Art Seed Fund and watched it grow agonizingly slowly. After accumulating $20,000, enough for perhaps 2 months' rent and basic supplies, she approached banks for small business loans. The rejections were swift. "Your concept is interesting," one loan officer told her, "but childcare is high risk with slim margins. Without substantial collateral or proven business experience, we cannot take the chance." 6 banks offered similar responses. With traditional funding avenues exhausted and her savings insufficient, she made the difficult decision to approach her parents. She prepared meticulously, creating a professional presentation outlining market research, financial projections, and her educational methodology. She practiced her pitch relentlessly, anticipating every potential objection. On a Sunday afternoon, in their tastefully decorated living room, she delivered what she believed was a compelling business proposal. She wasn't seeking charity. She was offering an investment opportunity in a business addressing a genuine market need. Her father listened in silence, arms crossed. When she finished, her mother laughed. Actually laughed. "Sarah, this is pure fantasy. You've never operated anything more complex than a lemonade stand. And now you propose launching a business? The failure rate for new businesses is astronomical, particularly for someone with no experience." Her father finally spoke. "If you are serious about business, pursue an MBA first. Gain experience in an established company. Learn how the real world operates before sinking money you don't possess into such a risky venture." The childcare industry generates $54 billion annually in this country, she countered, citing her research. Working parents are desperate for quality care with an educational foundation. Her mother's dismissal was swift and cutting. "You will fail, just like all your other childish dreams. And then you will come asking us to rescue you. The answer is no." She gathered her presentation materials with trembling hands, fighting back tears until she was safely in her car. For 3 days, she seriously considered abandoning her plan. Was she being naive? Was this another instance where they perceived reality more accurately than she did? The turning point arrived unexpectedly during her monthly mentoring session with Professor Williams. Noticing her unusual quietness, she gently inquired until she confessed her struggles with launching the business and her parents' devastating reaction. Instead of offering mere sympathetic platitudes, Professor Williams's eyes lit up. "Sarah, I have been anticipating someone revolutionizing childcare delivery. Your approach is precisely what is needed." She paused, contemplating something. "Have you encountered Abigail Henderson? She is a former student of mine who achieved considerable success in the technology sector and now focuses on educational investments. She might find what you are building compelling." 2 weeks later, She sat across from Mrs. Henderson in her minimalist office overlooking Boston Harbor. A formidable woman in her 60s with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, she posed incisive questions about her methodology, financial projections, and scaling strategy. She responded with concrete data and passionate conviction. 3 hours later, Mrs. Henderson extended an offer, $200,000 in exchange for 25% equity, with performance benchmarks that could reduce her stake over time. The terms were demanding but fair, and most importantly, they provided the opportunity to validate her concept. I am not investing in childcare, Mrs. Henderson stated as they shook hands. I am investing in you and your vision for transforming how we nurture young minds. As she signed the funding agreement the following week, she realized she had crossed an invisible threshold. No longer was she Sarah, the teacher seeking approval. She had become Sarah, the founder, creating something entirely new. The groundwork was laid. Now it was time to build. Identifying the ideal location for the first Bright Art Learning Center consumed her evenings and weekends for nearly 2 months. Commercial real estate agents showed her sterile office spaces in strip malls, basement rooms with inadequate natural light, and overpriced storefronts. None matched the environment she envisioned. A place that felt simultaneously homey and stimulating, with indoor-outdoor flow and adaptable learning spaces. Just as frustration threatened to overwhelm her, she noticed a "for sale" sign in front of a Victorian house on a tree-lined street in Cambridge. The 3-story structure had previously housed a small law firm that had relocated downtown. With its generous windows, large fenced yard, and separate rooms that could be converted into age-appropriate learning areas, it was perfect, except for the zoning restrictions and a price tag well beyond her budget. Undeterred, she researched zoning variances, prepared a community impact statement demonstrating the benefits of quality childcare for the neighborhood, and attended numerous hearings to address concerns about traffic and noise. After 6 exhausting weeks navigating bureaucracy, she secured the necessary approvals. Negotiations with the seller resulted in a lease-to-own arrangement that Mrs. Henderson helped structure to protect her fledgling business. With the location secured, she turned her attention to hiring. Jessica, her college friend, immediately joined as curriculum coordinator. Finding qualified teachers who shared her educational philosophy proved more challenging. Traditional early childhood educators were accustomed to either play-based or academic approaches, not her integrated model. After dozens of interviews, she assembled a small team, willing to embrace her vision and undergo specialized training. Renovations quickly became a nightmare. The charming Victorian required significant modifications to meet childcare licensing requirements. Additional bathrooms, safety features, accessibility ramps, enhanced fire protection. Costs escalated beyond projections, consuming funds allocated for marketing and curriculum materials. Working with contractors highlighted her inexperience. She failed to anticipate delays, miscommunications, and unforeseen expenses. 2 weeks before the scheduled opening, the fire marshal identified additional required modifications. Mrs. Henderson reluctantly provided additional funding, but her concerned emails suggested her patience was waning. Opening day arrived with only 6 children enrolled, a fraction of their 20-child capacity. The warm September morning found her standing nervously at the door, greeting families with professional smiles that masked her inner turmoil. Would parents entrust their precious children to this new, unproven center? Would her educational approach translate effectively from theory to practical implementation? Traditional childcare providers in the area had initiated a whisper campaign, questioning their methods. Too experimental, some claimed. Not enough focus on academics, others suggested, while some argued they were too structured for proper play-based learning. That first month, she worked 16-hour days, managing everything from administrative paperwork to classroom teaching to bathroom cleaning, when their part-time custodian unexpectedly quit. The stress led to migraines and a 12-pound weight loss from her already slender frame. Then came the email from her mother, arriving exactly 30 days after their opening. "I drove by your school yesterday and observed the empty parking lot," she wrote. When the inevitable failure comes, don't be too proud to request help with your resume. Law firms are always in need of paralegals, and it's at least adjacent to education. She printed that email and affixed it to her office bulletin board, not for motivation, but as a tangible reminder of the mindset she refused to adopt, regardless of challenges. That night, alone in the center after everyone had departed, she sat on the rainbow rug in the preschool room and wept for the first time since launching Bright Art. Had she overestimated the need? Misjudged her abilities? Created something that no one actually wanted? As she contemplated the very real possibility of failure, a construction paper artwork caught her eye. It was a painting by 4-year-old Oliver, one of their most challenging students, diagnosed with sensory processing issues. Oliver had initially struggled in their environment. The painting depicted a recognizable house, their center, with a smiling stick figure labeled Ms. Sarah, surrounded by smaller figures. His mother had tearfully explained that this was the first time Oliver had drawn himself interacting with other children rather than alone. "He feels he belongs here," she had said. "You have created something special." That simple painting rekindled her resolve. Even if they only managed to help these 6 children, even if they never reached full enrollment, the work itself mattered. The following morning, she developed new marketing materials, emphasizing their specialized approach for children with diverse learning needs. She contacted developmental pediatricians and family therapists, offering tours and explaining their methodology. Gradually, word spread among parents of children who had not thrived in traditional settings. By the end of their 3rd month, enrollment had doubled. By month 6, they had a small waiting list. Their reputation grew through the most potent form of marketing. Parents sharing stories with other parents about the positive changes they observed in their children's development, confidence, and joy in learning. The first anniversary of Bright Art Learning Center arrived with a celebratory atmosphere she could barely have imagined during those difficult early months. Their Cambridge location now operated at full capacity, serving 24 children and maintaining a waiting list extending 6 months. More importantly, their educational approach had demonstrated its efficacy through measurable outcomes and compelling parent testimonials. Children previously labeled difficult in other settings flourished in their environment. Academically focused families were impressed by their children's growth in emotional intelligence, while parents primarily concerned with social development noticed significant cognitive gains. The Boston Herald published a feature article titled "Rethinking Childcare." Cambridge Center blends academic and emotional learning, including interviews with satisfied parents and education experts. The publicity generated a flood of enrollment inquiries and, significantly, attracted attention from potential investors. She had used the first year to meticulously document their methodology, creating a proprietary curriculum that systematized the whole child, whole future approach. Every activity, transition, and environmental element was intentionally designed, and its impact meticulously tracked. This documentation proved critical when Mrs. Henderson introduced her to additional investors interested in funding expansion. "You have proven the concept works," Mrs. Henderson told her. "Now, demonstrate how it scales." An unexpected opportunity arose when a struggling traditional daycare in Brooklyn approached her about acquisition. The owner was retiring without a succession plan, and parents in the area had expressed interest in their model. The location was ideal, an affluent area with young professional families willing to pay premium rates for quality care. With additional investment secured, she purchased the facility, closed it for a month for renovations and staff training, and reopened it as Bright Art's second location. The expansion necessitated organizational growth. She could no longer personally oversee every operational aspect while simultaneously developing the business. After careful consideration, she hired Marcus, her other close friend from college, as operations director. With his business minor and shared philosophical commitment, he became an essential partner in the growth trajectory. His systems thinking complemented her educational focus, resulting in a more robust organization. Parents became their most effective advocates. A mother who organized TED Talks invited her to deliver a regional presentation on integrating cognitive and emotional development in early childhood. The video garnered over 70,000 views online, bringing national attention to their approach. The Regional Early Childhood Association recognized BrightArt with their annual Innovation in Childcare Award, legitimizing their model within the professional community. As the business stabilized, she fulfilled a personal promise. With the first significant profits, she purchased a small but comfortable condo for her grandmother Eleanor, who had believed in her when no one else had. "I always knew you would create something meaningful," Eleanor said, tears in her eyes as she handed her the keys. "Your grandfather would have been so proud." Within 18 months of opening their second location, they expanded to a third in Newton. Following the same model of renovation, staff training, and community integration, the BrightArt name became synonymous with quality care and innovative education throughout Greater Boston. Industry publications featured their teacher training program and curriculum. Other childcare centers began attempting to replicate aspects of their approach, though few fully grasped the intentional integration that made it effective. By the 3-year mark of their original location, BrightArt had grown into a multi-million-dollar business with 3 thriving centers, 42 employees, and over 100 children enrolled. This milestone received coverage in the Boston Business Journal, highlighting the growth potential in quality-focused childcare. That article, it seemed, caught her mother's attention. After years of minimal contact, maintained primarily through holiday cards and brief, strained phone calls on birthdays, her mother called one evening as she was leaving the office. "Sarah," she said, her voice unusually warm, "I saw the write-up in the Business Journal. It appears you're doing quite well for yourself." The subsequent conversation was surreal. Her mother asked detailed questions about business growth, revenue models, and expansion plans. Not once did she mention children, educational philosophy, or the actual work performed. Her interest centered entirely on the financial success, as though the business could have been selling any commodity rather than nurturing young lives. "We should have lunch soon," she suggested before ending the call. "I would love to hear more about your company." The emphasis on company rather than school or centers spoke volumes. She agreed politely while maintaining emotional distance, recognizing that her mother's sudden interest stemmed from financial metrics rather than a genuine understanding of her vision. As BrightArt continued to grow, she remained focused on their mission rather than seeking validation from those who had dismissed it. Yet, she could not deny a certain satisfaction in knowing that success, measured in her parents' terms, profit, recognition, influence, had finally compelled them to take notice, even if they still overlooked the deeper purpose driving it all. By their 5th year, BrightArt Learning Centers had become a recognized name in childcare innovation beyond Boston. Their 4th and 5th locations opened in Somerville and Wellesley, each reaching full enrollment capacity within months, significantly faster than her initial projections. National education publications featured their methodology in articles about the future of early childhood education. She received speaking invitations from universities and education conferences across the country. The culmination of this recognition came with an invitation to deliver a keynote address at the National Early Childhood Education Conference in Chicago, a platform typically reserved for researchers and academics with decades in the field. An associated profile in Education Innovator magazine described BrightArt as revolutionizing childcare by bridging the false dichotomy between academic preparation and social emotional development. With 5 thriving centers, over 70 employees, and a valuation approaching $2 million, BrightArt had surpassed even her ambitious projections. While professional success flourished, her relationship with her parents remained distant but cordial. They exchanged occasional texts and attended obligatory holiday dinners where conversation remained superficial. They never visited her centers or expressed interest in the actual work taking place inside them. Their acknowledgement of her success took the form of mentioning it to their friends. Sarah has quite a successful business now, reducing years of passionate work to a simple status marker. The fragile détente shattered unexpectedly on a Tuesday afternoon when her assistant buzzed her office. "Your mother is here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment." Confused and instantly tense, she straightened her desk and mentally prepared herself. Caroline Mitchell entered her office with the confident bearing of someone familiar with the space, not a first-time visitor. She surveyed the room. The awards on the wall, the children's artwork displayed alongside professional certificates, the strategic plan visible on her whiteboard. "Nice office," she said finally. "Very colorful." She remained behind her desk. "This is a surprise. Is everything okay with Dad?" "Your father is fine. I am here about a professional matter." She sat uninvited in the chair opposite the desk. "I have been following your company's growth. Very impressive for someone with no business background." The backhanded compliment was familiar territory. "Thank you. Did you require something specific? I have a staff meeting in 20 minutes." She smoothed her already impeccable blazer. "I am making a career change. The partnership at Wilkins and Reed has become untenable. I've been exploring new opportunities." A cold understanding dawned as her mother continued. "Your company could benefit from someone with my legal expertise as you expand. Executive level, of course. Perhaps chief operations officer or general counsel. The childcare industry is heavily regulated, and my background would be invaluable." The sheer audacity momentarily stunned her. This woman, who had dismissed her career as glorified babysitting, now sought an executive position in the company she had built despite her discouragement. Before she could respond, her mother continued, "I have always supported your work with children, Sarah. I simply desired for you to dream bigger. And look, you have. You've built a business, just as I always knew you could." The revised history ignited something within her. "Always supported? You mocked this career path at every opportunity. You called me a glorified babysitter. You refused to help when I approached you with a business plan." Her mother's expression hardened. "That is a rather dramatic interpretation of constructive guidance. Families have disagreements. What matters is that I am here now, offering my expertise when you need it most for expansion." "And what makes you believe I need your expertise?" Her voice remained measured despite her racing heart. "I have a legal team. I have an operations director. What I lack is an opening for someone who clearly does not understand or value our core mission." Her mother's facade cracked slightly. "I was let go, Sarah, after 23 years. Budget cuts and restructuring, they called it." For a moment, she felt a flicker of empathy, quickly extinguished by her mother's next words. "I expected family would step up. I've informed several colleagues I would be joining your executive team. It would be embarrassing to retract that now." When she didn't immediately respond, her tactics shifted. The press might find it interesting that the founder of this progressive childcare empire comes from significant privilege: private schools, family connections, financial safety nets. How does that align with your public image of the self-made entrepreneur championing educational access? The implied threat hung between them. "Are you threatening to undermine my business if I do not hire you?" she asked incredulously. "I am suggesting that family supports family, especially when reputations are at stake, mine and yours." After her mother left, the panic attack struck with unexpected force. Sitting on her office floor, struggling to breathe, She battled concurrent waves of fury, guilt, and fear. Would she actually attempt to damage Brightart's reputation? Did she owe her mother a position simply because she was family? Was she being needlessly vindictive by refusing? The questions tormented her through a sleepless night and into her weekly therapy session the following day. Dr. Levin listened carefully to the entire situation before offering her perspective. Sarah, you have described a pattern of emotional manipulation throughout your relationship with your mother. This situation follows the same pattern, simply with higher stakes, because you now possess something she desires. Dr. Levin's words illuminated the dynamic with startling clarity. Throughout her life, her mother had defined her worth by her own standards, dismissed her choices when they did not align with her vision, and now sought to capitalize on her success while simultaneously threatening it. Most revealing was her instinctive guilt, the ingrained response to prioritize her mother's needs above her own, even when doing so would compromise everything she had built. Your mother does not wish to contribute to your vision, Dr. Levin continued. She seeks to extract value from it while minimizing the philosophy that created it. That is not collaboration, it is appropriation. That afternoon, alone in her office, she experienced a profound realization. She had built something so inherently valuable that even her mother, who had dismissed it for years, now desired to be part of it. Her mother's attempt to claim a position within her company inadvertently validated its worth in the most ironic way possible. More importantly, she recognized that maintaining Brightart's integrity necessitated protecting it from anyone whose values did not align with their mission, even family. She had spent years seeking her mother's approval of her choices. Now, ironically, her mother was seeking her approval of hers. The power dynamic had shifted completely, though her mother had not yet fully registered the change. For the first time, she clearly saw that she controlled this situation, not through manipulation or retaliation, but through the legitimate authority she had earned by creating something of genuine value. After careful consideration, she arranged to meet her mother at their flagship Cambridge Center on a Saturday, when no children were present. Rather than meeting at her corporate office, she wanted her mother to genuinely see what she had built, not just the business metrics, but the learning environments that embodied their philosophy. She arrived early, walking through the light-filled classrooms, touching the carefully selected materials that sparked imagination and development. This was the physical manifestation of her vision, the vision her mother had dismissed for so many years. When her mother arrived precisely on time, dressed in a formal business suit inappropriate for a childcare setting, she greeted her professionally. "I thought you should see what we actually do before we discuss any potential role for you here." Her mother's tight smile suggested she viewed this as a procedural hurdle rather than a meaningful introduction. She began the tour, explaining the intentional design elements of each space, how the reading nooks and curved architecture created both intimacy and visibility, how the art areas were set up to foster both independent creativity and collaborative projects, how even the placement of windows maximized natural light patterns throughout the day. She showed her their documentation systems, tracking individual children's development across multiple domains, the curriculum frameworks that integrated cognitive and emotional learning, the parent communication tools that extended their approach into home environments. Gradually, her mother's dismissive expression softened to something resembling curiosity, though she maintained professional distance. In their science exploration area, she finally addressed the situation directly. "Mom, I understand you're in a difficult professional position. I comprehend the feeling of being lost when an identity you've cultivated is suddenly taken away. But I need to be absolutely clear about something." She met her mother's eyes steadily. "Your words, at my 26th birthday, calling me just a nanny, a glorified babysitter, they inflicted a deep wound. Not only because they came from my mother, but because they fundamentally misunderstood the importance and complexity of what I do. Her mother began to protest, but she continued. I have built Bright Art on a foundation of respect. Respect for children's complete developmental needs. Respect for teachers as skilled professionals. Respect for parents as partners. I cannot bring someone into our organization, especially at a leadership level, who does not genuinely share those values, regardless of their technical qualifications or family connection. Her mother's face flushed. So you are refusing to help me after everything we did for you? I am not refusing to help, she clarified. I am refusing to place you in an executive position for which you are philosophically misaligned. But I am offering you something else. She handed her mother a formal job description. We have an opening for a front desk receptionist at our Wellesley location. It would provide you with the opportunity to learn our organization from the ground up, to understand what we actually do before assuming any leadership role. The shock on her mother's face would have been comical in a different context. A receptionist? I am an attorney with 25 years of experience. And you are an attorney with no experience in childcare, early education, or our specific methodology, she countered gently. Everyone who advances to leadership here understands our work at the most fundamental level. Even I work directly with children before taking on administrative roles. For several moments, her mother appeared ready to storm out. Then something shifted in her expression. A recognition, perhaps, that her usual tactics would not be effective. You are serious about this? Completely. It is not punishment, Mom. It is the same standard I apply to everyone. After further discussion, during which she remained calmly resolute, her mother reluctantly agreed to interview for the receptionist position, making clear her expectation of rapid advancement. 3 weeks later, her mother began working at their Wellesley location, answering phones, greeting families, and handling basic administrative tasks. The adjustment was difficult for her. The shift in status, the different style of interaction required with parents and children, the realization that childcare operations involved complexities she had never considered. Yet, something unexpected occurred in the months that followed. Working daily in an environment designed around respect for children's development, she began to witness the intentionality behind their approach. She observed teachers skillfully guiding emotional regulation during conflicts over toys. She saw curriculum coordinators designing activities that simultaneously developed fine motor skills, scientific thinking, and collaborative abilities. She experienced parents' gratitude when their children achieved developmental breakthroughs. Gradually, her perspective shifted. 6 months into her role, during a staff appreciation event, her mother approached her somewhat awkwardly. I did not understand before, she admitted, her voice unusually humble. What you have built. It is not merely supervising children, it is a sophisticated educational model. The acknowledgement, withheld for so long, felt surreal. Thank you for seeing that, she replied simply. Over the following year, as Bright Art expanded to its 7th and 8th locations and their valuation exceeded $2 million, her mother advanced to an administrative coordinator position, having earned it through demonstrated commitment rather than demanding it through familial obligation. The National Child Care Association recognized their model with their Innovation Award, bringing further validation to their approach. With secure financial footing, she established the Bright Art Foundation, providing scholarships for childcare workers seeking advanced education, breaking down the economic barriers that prevented many passionate educators from entering or remaining in the field. Her relationship with her mother gradually transformed into something she never anticipated, a measured respect, if not the unconditional support she had once craved. During a rare dinner together, just the two of them, her mother finally offered an apology she had stopped expecting. I was wrong about your work, she said, studying her wine glass. I equated salary with value and prestige with importance. I did not understand that what you do shapes the future in ways my legal career never could." The acknowledgement brought unexpected tears to her eyes. "Thank you for saying that." As she approaches her 33rd birthday, with plans for nationwide expansion through a carefully designed franchise model, she often reflects on the journey from dismissed nanny to industry innovator. The path was not what she had initially envisioned. It proved simultaneously more challenging and more rewarding than she could have anticipated. When she visits their centers now, observing children engaged in purposeful play that nurtures both their minds and hearts, she feels profound gratitude for having trusted her own vision despite the discouragement. Sometimes, the passion others mock becomes one's greatest strength. Sometimes, the path they discourage leads to one's most meaningful success. And sometimes, the people who initially fail to recognize your value eventually come to understand it, though not before you have learned to validate yourself without their approval. If you are facing someone who diminishes your dreams or dismisses your passion, remember that their limited perspective does not define your potential. The work that calls to your heart may be exactly what the world needs, even if others cannot yet see its value. Have you ever experienced someone dismissing your passion only to later witness its success? Or found yourself building something meaningful despite discouragement? She invites you to share your stories in the comments. If this journey resonated, perhaps consider following for more stories about finding strength in unexpected places.
Thank you for listening. And remember, the things others might mock could very well become your greatest achievements.
Wishing you courage on your own path to creating something meaningful, whatever form that takes.